All right. Good morning, everyone. For those of y'all who were here last week, welcome back to my studio. For those of you who are joining us for the first time this week, welcome. My name is Bill Platz. I'd like to thank Michaela for her acknowledgement of First Peoples at the beginning, and I would like to also join in and share my respect and extend my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. This morning, we are going to do a few different things. We're going to be balancing a little bit of a tutorial. Last week, we talked about using the natural tannins that are in tea to make a tea-based ink. That we're going to do something very similar here this morning, except we're going to be using avocado. And I know that many of you have already seen the recipe that we posted for y'all, but I'm going to be taking you through this step by step and making the avocado ink sort of in the background over here. I'll be cooking while I'm actually going through the drawing too. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about portraiture here this morning, and we're going to use a beautiful, absolutely stunning drawing portrait from the Queensland Art Gallery collection as our one of our primary sources for drawing today. So we're going to be talking a little bit about portraiture, and then we're going to be talking about how to disrupt some conventional methods of drawing. We did that last week in our bad drawing workshop, and this morning we're going to talk about activating your whole body in the process of drawing and using your body in ways that may be a bit uncomfortable, that might feel like there's a bit of restraint and resistance, but I think that you'll really enjoy it. It'll really loosen you up, free you up, and I think you'll be really surprised by the results that you get. Now, I'll say right here at the beginning, my studio sits adjacent to the train tracks. Queensland Rail was out there trimming all the trees this morning, which makes me think that maybe there won't be trains running, but you might occasionally hear a train go by in the background. So apologies for that if that happens. All right, let's dive right into it. We've got about an hour together here this morning, and I'm going to leave a little bit of the time at the end to throw it back to the team that's over at the Queensland Art Gallery so they can talk to you a little bit again how to share the wonderful drawings that you're doing. So, okay, now let's begin with the avocado and the avocado based ink that we're going to be using today. This is really, really wonderful. And it's a method of making a natural tannin based ink that a lot of people aren't very aware of. Avocados, obviously wildly popular here. You know, I've lived in Northern California and in New Mexico, and I have never seen anybody consume as many avocados as y'all do. But there's a lot of avocados out there, which means there's also a lot of avocado seeds and pits. And they make just the most beautiful ink that you have ever seen. And it's a very, very easy process. And I think that you'll really enjoy it. So as we're going through the workshop here this morning, I will take you through step by step how to do that. Okay, so what you'll need if you're going to be making some avocado ink along with us this morning is a fresh avocado or fresh avocado pit. All right, so if you've got one from the last 24 hours, that's great. They tend to work less effectively as they get older or as they start to dry out. So you need a fresh avocado there. That's number one. And you need a good sharp kitchen knife for cutting up that avocado pit. So everybody should have a copy of this, but I'll just take you through it really quickly. You need a little bit of fresh water that you're going to be simmering your avocado pit in. You'll also want to have a little bit of bicarb soda, a little bit of baking soda. And this baking soda is alkaline and there's natural acidity. The tannins are acid. And so this will just help neutralize that. Now, we're not going to get into too much chemistry and trying to make something which is purely pH neutral, but this will help with that. And somebody in the chat is already asking, I've gotten a few questions about how indelible, archival, light fast these inks are. They're fantastic. There are documents that have been written in these inks. You know, avocados were first described by the Europeans when they visited the Americas 500 years ago. It's thought that avocados are native to Central America, you know, the area in Mexico, Oaxaca, that kind of an area. But since they spread north and south through the Americas too. And there are documents written in avocado ink, and there are cloths that are dyed with avocado ink that are still sustained centuries later. All right, then you will also need some sort of a strainer or sieve, just to strain your ink at the end. Look, a coffee filter, a tea strainer, a basic kitchen strainer like this, anything that'll strain your ink will work really well for that. And then the other final things you'll need, a good small saucepan. The smaller, the better, because you really want to concentrate the liquid there with the bits of your avocado pit inside it. You don't want it to spread out too much. You want it to really soak and steep there. And you'll actually see as we get to the end of cooking this, I'll actually take that pan and I'll tilt it a little bit too, just as the water is cooking off to really concentrate and get that in there. So you'll need that and then just something to stir your avocado. I'll keep a little teaspoon both for adding the baking soda to it, but also for fishing the skins out, which I'll talk to you a bit about in just a minute. All right, so first things first, once you've got your avocado pit, which was done by one of my lovely producers that's here in the, in the studio with me. Once you've got your avocado pit removed there, what you'll wanna do is just wipe it. Give it a good wipe, get all of that, that fruit off of it. And once you've done that, still might be a little bit slippery, but you should have that lovely brown seed, that pit from the avocado. And now you're ready to get started. Once you've removed that, what you're gonna have to do there is then cut it, all right? And it will cut relatively easily on a cutting board with a sharp knife, but be careful, of course, as you're cutting this up. You wanna cut it at least into 8 pieces, but the best thing to do is to cut it into about 16 pieces. Now, one of the reasons for not dicing it even smaller than that is you will be removing this brown skin. And if you have slightly larger pieces when you're first simmering it, that skin will just delaminate. It'll come right off and then you can pick it out. If you've got a lot of little pieces, you'll get a lot of little pieces of skin in there too. So the first thing I'm gonna do here, and I will just grab my cutting board and my knife. So I'm going to cut on my knees. Don't do this at home. All right. So what you're going to do there, when you've got your avocado pit ready, take your knife and just really give it a good press and start cutting it into smaller pieces. And when you do that, if you've never cut open an avocado seed before, what you should see is it's a beautiful kind of an ivory color on the inside. Now, what you can't see when you're looking at it like that is that it is absolutely loaded with tannins, those beautiful compounds that we talked about last week. A few people in chat are saying they're not seeing sound. Would you just double check and make sure that we're good there? If you come over to the window, yeah, and up top, yeah, just make sure that we are good there. Yep, our sound is on. We're broadcasting. Okay, so, oh, good. Thank you for everybody who are, okay, all right, thank you. All right, so everybody can, so a lot of you can hear me well. Okay, good. Now, once you've got it there, then you just want to keep cutting it down. So again, like I said, just keep cutting it almost like you would cut an onion. So I'm going to cut it first into quarters like that, and then I'm going to further cut it down until I have 8 pieces. All right, now I prefer to cut it into about 16 pieces, but for this demo today, I'll keep it fairly coarse so that it's easy for you to see. All right, now once I've cut it into those about 8 pieces like that on my cutting board, I'm then gonna add that to my pan. Now, I should say that this method of using avocado, it's considered to be a natural method. I don't wanna make any claims about allergies or anything like that because everyone is different, but there's nothing, actually somebody told me once when I was doing a workshop that these avocado pits are really toxic to horses. But I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe any horse owners out there can comment. And then you want to add about 200 mils of water and birds. Yes, I've heard that too. Yeah, and a lot of people are saying that you would think that it's like cutting, trying to cut through a walnut, or trying to cut through a peach pit or something like that. But it's actually quite a bit easier to chop than that. And then you want to add about 200 mils of water. You don't need a great deal of water. You don't have to submerge those pieces of the avocado pit completely. You just need enough water in the bottom of your pan there that it's covering maybe half of each one of those pieces. Ultimately, you're going to simmer it for about 15 to 20 minutes, maybe as much as 25 minutes, and you're going to reduce almost all of that water down. You'll get rid of all but about 15 mils of that water. So if you add a little bit more water, you'll just cook it a little bit longer. If you add a little bit less, you might cook off too much of it too quickly and have to add a little bit more. So depending on the size of your pan, you'll get a sense of how much water you need to add to make sure that there's a good bit covering the bottom of your pan and that those bits of avocado pit are sitting in there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my little stove here off to the side, and I'm gonna let that cook while I go through the workshop. If y'all smell burning, please tell me in the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna let that go, and then we're gonna keep checking in on it as we go through the workshop. And by the time we are all done, here's the one that I made for the little demonstration just 2 days ago. By the time it's all done, I'll get up and show this right to the camera. You will wind up with just, oops, there we go, the most beautiful kind of a blood red ink. And it's just gorgeous. It goes on, depending on the type of avocado, some will get a little bit redder, some will get a little bit browner. It really just depends. Also, the water that you're using will have an impact on it. Some people like to do this using mineral waters because it will give different effects. So there's different things that you can do that will affect that color and different varieties. Now, this time, because you're cooking it down so much and because that avocado is so rich in those tannins, it'll actually become a little bit syrupy at the end. So you shouldn't have to add any starch or anything to it. However, some people still like to add a bit of gum arabic as a binder. That's, again, the same binder that's used in watercolors. And so you will see recipes where a little bit of gum arabic can be added. Now, I should have said thank you to the person in chat who reminded me. At this stage too, you want to add a pinch of the bicarb to it. And again, that will just help neutralize some of the acid that's in it. It doesn't take a lot. A teaspoon is plenty there to add. And then you will see that that will interact with the acid, the natural acid, and it will actually start to bubble a little bit. It'll release that carbon dioxide when you do that. So I will do that too. I'm just going to take my little bicarb soda, and I'm just going to take about a teaspoon there, and I'm just going to sprinkle that into the water there with my bits of avocado. All right, and that's all you need to do is just add a little bit of that sodium carbonate, soda ash, washing soda will work for this, or sodium bicarb, which most people have in their kitchens, will work really well for that too. All right, so I'm going to put that on the stove now. I'm going to lock it down. I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to try to remember to keep my eye on it so it doesn't cook off too much. I'm going to turn it to a low heat there on my stove, and now I'm just going to let it simmer. And I'm just going to let it simmer, and every once in a while I'm going to come in and I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir there with my spoon. Now, after it gets hot, the water gets hot, after only a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, what you'll see happening is that brown skin on the pit will start to come off. It'll just peel off really, really easily. At that point, if you have a pair of tongs or tweezers, or I'll even just use the same spoon that I just used to put my bicarb soda in, I'll just go in there and I'll fish out those skins and put them to the side. And I'll show you that in just a couple of minutes too. All right, now, let's go on then. While that is simmering there off to the side, we'll check in on that from time to time, and it will be done before the end of this workshop, and we'll have a chance to draw with it. While that's simmering, you can, let's switch over. Let's talk about the drawing we're gonna do today. All right, so I'm going to switch cameras and talk a little bit about the drawing that we're going to use first, and then talk a little bit about this whole idea of body extension and prostheses and drawing. So let me move the microphone over here. Can we switch cameras there? There we go. All right. This is the drawing we're going to use today by Constance Stokes. And I love this drawing. It's a beautiful drawing. It's in the Queensland Art Gallery collection. And I'm just going to zoom in there. Oops, that's the next one. Last week, I know some folks had some trouble accessing the drawing. And so this week, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep that drawing off to the side on my screen the entire time so that you can see it. So if you can open up the drawing in a second window or something, that's fine, but I'll always keep it here off to the side so y'all can see it really well. All right, I want to talk a little bit about this drawing before we get into it by Constance Stokes. Constance Stokes is a really, really interesting artist. She unfortunately, she's a really, really good artist. She's from Victoria, studied in Melbourne, studied painting at the NGV, and then actually went to London and studied drawing at the Royal Academy. And in the 1930s, she was really coming on as a prominent Australian artist, and unfortunately has been a bit lost, has been excluded from some of the big surveys of Australian art of the 20th century. She fell out of making art for many years while she raised her children, and then came back to it again late in life. Really, really interesting artist. And as you can see here in the drawing, just absolutely gorgeous, just gorgeous drawing. And this was a drawing, actually, if you look at the date on this, you'll see that it's 1932. This was a drawing that she did while she was in London, and while she was studying there. And you'll see the title of the work is Portrait of Marguerite Salle. Now, Marguerite Salle is another really interesting character. She was, let's switch cameras again. I want to talk to folks for just a second. Marguerite Salle was a model, an artist model, and she was actually originally from New Zealand, passed through Australia, and then went to London. And she was a really, really prominent model in London at the time, and many of the artists in London did drawings and paintings of her. I actually found a really wonderful article about her from 1934, talking about her, and she had the nickname of Madonna because she had this classical sort of beautiful face, and all of the artists and photographers wanted to use her. And there's a funny quote in that article where the interviewer is asking her why she didn't go into movies, because she had this striking face and she could have been in feature films. And this will be deeply depressing to all my friends out there who are artist models, but she said she didn't go into movies because she could make more money as an artist model than she could going into film. All right, now, but it's a beautiful drawing of her. And one of the interesting things about it then is we have a portrait of a model. And this is near and dear to my heart, and actually my area of research, and looking at artist models and their relationship with portraiture and life drawing. So we're going to get in, we're going to talk a little bit about portraiture as we go through today, and we're going to start by drawing. We're going to start drawing by looking at this particular drawing by Constance Stokes of Marguerite Salle. Okay, and I'm bubbling away here off to the side. You can see the steam starting to come off my avocados, and I'm going to put it here under the other camera to show you how the avocado how the skins are starting to come off. Let's switch cameras. All right, so if you can see it there, you can already see that the color is starting to change, and that color is already going pink, and it will get darker and darker as that water cooks down. But you'll also see now that the skins are starting to come off of those, and if I just touch them, the skins will just fall away from those pieces of avocado. So I'm not going to take the time right now to go through and fish out all of those skins, but if you're doing this at home, this is the stage where you could actually do that. Take those skins off, and they'll fall away really, really easily. In fact, some people will take the entire pit at the beginning and just blanch it really quickly, and then peel off the whole skin even before they cut it up. All right, so I'm going to put that back on the heat over there. We'll let that keep going, and I'm actually going to reduce my heat even a little bit more. I just want that simmering very, very lightly there in the background. Okay, we're cooking away. All right, so let's begin then to talk about portraiture, because one of the things we think about when we think about drawing and portraits and drawings of other people is that we think about the pictorial qualities, that you're taking a picture like this picture by Constance Stokes of Marguerite, and then when you do your drawing, you're also thinking about the pictorial qualities, and you're comparing them, you're matching them. How does this picture I'm making compare to this picture I'm looking at? Or how does this picture, this portrait I'm making, compare to the person that I'm looking at? And what I want you to start to think about here this morning is getting out of that idea of just matching the visual, just the pictorial qualities. And instead, we are going to get into the expression of your entire body as an artist as a response to this body that you're looking at in the portrait. One of the things that makes drawing very special is drawing is movement. It's movement inscribed in space and on a surface. And that movement is the movement of your body as an artist. And the more that you can engage with your own body, the more of that responsiveness will come out. Unfortunately, we're trained from when we're very little to focus on fine motor skills, right? And dexterity and holding our pencils correctly in school and all those things. And most people, when they go through and drawing, they tend to draw the same way. And they think of the hand-eye coordination, and they think of these, you know, really visual manual skills that they can adapt, and their fine motor skills. We're going to get into the gross motor today. We're going to get into activating your whole body. And I'm actually going to have you do that through prostheses, through extensions of your body, making the drawing tools part of your body so that you can't control them as easily just with your fingers, but that you have to get your whole body involved, and you'll become very sensitive to the way that your body is moving and reacting to the paper. Now, I'm going to show you another artwork as we go into our first drawing, and we're actually going to use this artwork a little bit later too. Let's switch cameras again. Okay, so we have that beautiful Constance Stokes drawing there. The other work that we're going to look at is this particular work. Whoops, let me go back, see if I can zoom in there, by Rebecca Horn. All right, and it's part of a whole series of works that she did called Performances 2, but this particular one is called Pencil Mask. She is a German artist. I'll go over to the citation there again. She's a German artist, but this particular work, Pencil Mask, she did in her studio in New York in the 1970s. I believe it was 1972 when she did that one, but I shouldn't say it. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check that. But this whole set of performances all had to deal with extending and transforming her own body. Pencil Mask is one of the most famous, in which she has this, this grid of green fabric over her face and pencils attached to the green fabric. And if you saw this one, it's been installed at GOMA a few times in the past few years. You see how she's just swiping her face back and forth and drawing with these extensions to her face. It's a very different idea of portraiture and portrait drawing and what that can be. I remember Rebecca Horn is an artist that's had a big influence on me. We can switch it back to me again, because there was a big, while I was studying, when I was an undergrad at art school, there was a big retrospective of her work at the Guggenheim Museum. It would have been 1992, 1993, right around there. And it's absolutely beautiful. It was a beautiful retrospective and really changed the way I thought about drawing and the interaction of the body. All right, so we are going to begin with the Constance Stokes work here. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna instantly interrupt your method of drawing, and I'm going to have you attach your drawing materials directly to your hands, in this case to your body. Now for today, you should have, if you saw the supplies that we listed for you, best thing to have are some rubber bands. If you've got a stack of different size rubber bands, that's really quite good. I've got some large ones and some small ones. If you have any yarn or string or ribbon, that will work really well. If you have any tape, I've got regular old masking tape here. I also have some gauze tape, some medical tape, and then anything you can use to draw with. If you have textures, if you have pencils, if you have any of those things, I've got some kids, from my kids, I've got some of their textures here. I've got some Sharpie markers along with me. I've got some regular old alcohol markers. I even have dry erase markers. Those will work really, really beautifully. I have some grease pencils. Some grease pencils used in construction. Any sort of thing that you have that can make a mark will work for this first drawing we're going to do. Now, as we get into it, and as I show you how to attach this to yourself for this first one, and I'm going to have my producer help me with this too. Let's check back in with our avocado ink. All right, so I'm going to switch this over to the other camera again, and look how we're doing now. Can you all see that? Beautiful. You can see how it's just turning. If it starts to look almost like you're cooking beets, then you're doing it correctly. Except that this will make an ink that's much, much better, much more stable than beet-based inks. Beet inks don't hold their color very well. So I'm going to keep that going over there. It's still cooking down and cooking nicely, and I'm going to try not to forget about it. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you take your pencils, your pens, your textures, whatever you have, and I'm going to have you attach those both to your dominant hand and to your non-dominant hand. All right, so what you'll need is 4 either pencils, texters, markers, whatever it is that you're going to draw with. You'll need those. And then the best thing to use for this are just some small rubber bands. And that's what I've got, some small rubber bands. And let me show you how you're going to do this. What you're going to do is you're going to attach one pencil to the back of your index finger on your dominant hand. And then you're going to attach a second pencil to your middle finger and your ring finger, which you will attach together also on your dominant hand. You are then going to attach in the same way to your index finger, your middle finger, ring finger on your non-dominant hand. All right. So the best way to do this is to take your rubber bands and to take 3 rubber bands. All right. And I'm going to begin by doing this on my non-dominant hand. So take a rubber band and put it on, not too tight. Doesn't have to be too tight. So I've got it there close to my knuckle. All right. Then I'm going to take a second rubber band, put it in on the medial there in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to take a third rubber band and I'm going to put it there on the tip of my finger. And this one I'll do 3 times, so it's nice and tight. All right, so now I've got the 3 rubber bands on my finger. And now this is where I'm going to need my producer's assistance here. You come in there. All right, thank you. This is Lottie, my producer, and slip that pencil in underneath all 3 of those rubber bands. All right, you can do this yourself, but best if you can get a hand. All right, so there we go. So now I've got that attached. Okay, now I'm going to take 3 more rubber bands and I'm going to do my middle finger and my ring finger together. All right, there we go. So 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, now if you are doing this by yourself, a good little trick for those of you who are knitters out there who are good at casting on, you can just take your thumb and put your thumb in and use your thumb to hold that rubber band while you insert that pencil into it. But again, I'm going to have my producer help me out. All right, there we go. Slipping in there and there and into the third one. Perfect. Now, do a little bit of adjusting of those until you get the lengths. You want them to be sticking out about 1 inch from the tips of your fingers. I know everybody gave me a hard time about metric and imperial last week. So 1 inch, which is some amount in centimeters. All right, out from your fingers like that. All right, if anybody's getting a wicked Edward Scissorhands hankering right now, I get it. All right, so there you go. And then you want to do the exact same thing on your other hand. All right, so you've got it on both of your hands. All right, so I'm going to give everybody a chance to do that right now. Take 2 more, take your rubber bands and set up your dominant hand as well. Okay, so I'm going to do it now on my index finger on my right hand. 3 rubber bands. All right, I can hear my avocado ink is just simmering away over there. It's doing so well. Okay, there. And then I'm also going to do that on my middle finger and ring finger together. Now, again, what this will do when you start drawing this way, it's going to feel difficult. You're going to feel resistance. You know, Rebecca Horn, when she first started to do her body extensions and prostheses and her enclosures and her methods of resistance, it was because she had become quite ill. She was a sculptor, but like so many sculptors in the 50s and 60s, she was working with really toxic materials, leads and fiberglass with polyester resin and things like that. She actually became quite ill, had problems with her lungs, and had to give up that kind of sculpture. And while she was convalescing, she started to think about the limits of the body and ways that she could extend her body. And one of those ways was through drawing. All right, so now I have those rubber bands on my dominant hand. And again, I'm going to call on my producer to help me put those in. Thank you. There, and then we'll check in on our avocado ink again. Beautiful, thank you. All right, and hopefully everybody's chat typing with their thumbs and with their wrists and hopefully with your noses. That's great. Okay, there we go. It will become, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to swipe the tablet to get back to our drawing here, but I'll figure that out. All right, there we go. Oh, now look at that. We are ready to draw, y'all. Okay, now, before we get into this first drawing, let's do another check-in with our avocado ink, which is looking just beautiful. Look at this. I'll switch that camera. Look at that. Can you all see that? Nice. Now, I've reduced probably about half of the water And what I would do now at this stage is I would continue, let me move that microphone over so it's closer. I would continue to reduce that even further because I still probably have 60 or 70 mils of water in there, maybe even a little bit more. So that's still got to cook down. And again, you are going to keep cooking that down till you get to about 15 mils, which is about the amount that I have in that little glass container right there. So I might, at this stage, since I already have some avocado ink that's made up previously, I might just put this to the side and turn off the heat so that I don't forget about it while we do this next drawing. And then I'll show you how to strain it after we finish this first drawing. Okay, I'm gonna put that back to the side. And your color, you should notice the color change really, really quickly. It will be slow to start. You know, it might take 10 minutes and you'll wonder if you're even doing it right. And then when it starts to kick off and go pink and go red and turn then an intense blood red, it'll go really quickly. All right, so let's come back over here. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna go see if I can swipe with my, with my thumb, which is go. It's hopeless. Hold on. I'm going to get some assistance with this. I'm going to pass this on. You swipe that back to the double tap it. Yeah, there, and then enlarge it. There we go. All right. That was a team effort, everyone. Okay. There we go. Let me put her back. Okay. And hopefully now everybody can see that pretty well on screen for you. All right. So now you are ready to draw. And we are going to take about 5 minutes on this. Now, you can work horizontally. If you're working on a wall, working vertically works really well. My personal favorite way of drawing is not sitting down like I am right now. I like to work on the floor. And I'm a classic squatter. I like to squat down on the floor so I can move around while I'm drawing and move my whole body around with the drawing too. But it will work if you're working on a tabletop, if you're working on a wall, if you're working on an easel, any of those things will work for this. Now, the important thing is not to start to eliminate your non-dominant hand and eliminate your middle and ring finger and get to the point where you're only drawing with your dominant index finger. What I would like you to try for this is drawing with all four at the same time. And what you should start to become aware of is the way that your shoulders are moving, the way your elbows are moving, the way you're moving from the center of your body, not just moving with your wrist and your fingers. Okay, let's get Lati set up with this too. Let's get some pens. She's got some pens over there attached, and let's do a drawing, y'all. Let's take about 5 minutes on this drawing. Let's use the Constant Stokes drawing as a basis for your own drawing, and then I'm going to want you to share these drawings too. And I know QAGOMA is going to want you to share these drawings. So I'm going to get myself situated, and let's draw it together. And as we draw, I'm going to talk even a little bit more about portraiture. All right, and now I'm just working, I'm thinking about this Constant Stokes drawing, and I'm working multiple parts at the same time. So I'm thinking about the hair, I'm thinking about the profile, I'm thinking about the blouse, the neckline, the neck, and I'm thinking about drawing all of those things at once. And think about how you can use your hands and move your hands in order to manage that whole portrait. Don't try to rush it. Let it build a bit at a time there on your page. All right. And I think you'll be surprised at some of the results you get. Let it be free. Let it be loose as you work there and think about that movement on the surface. Okay, try drawing. You might try leading with your non-dominant hand, then following with your non-dominant hand. One of the things that you're trying to do through this process is build up density. All right, so even though this drawing has got this beautiful restraint to it, I want you to be thinking about how you're building up a density of marks, because that density of marks will carry the density of experience as you're working the drawing. There we go. All right. And I know y'all can't type into the chat because you are your fingers are currently occupied with all of those pieces that you have. But if you have a chance to reflect, feel free to share that with us too. All right. All right, so some of you last week when we were doing bad drawing, for those of you who joined us then, we're thinking about blind contour drawing and some of the history of drawing there and using techniques like blind contour. And this should give you some very similar kind of effects to what you got then. So you can see I'm just gonna keep drawing, keep building. I'm not judging just, again, the pictorial qualities, but I'm thinking about the total visual of what I'm getting here. And I know you can't, most of you probably can't see my entire sheet of paper, but there we go. All right, let's give it a couple more minutes on this. I know we're gonna run out of time, so we got to keep going, but let's go. Nice. Try drawing at different parts of your drawing at the same time. So you might try drawing the hair with one hand while you're drawing the blouse with the other hand. And what you'll start to see is that there's similarities between those different parts of the drawing and the effects that are being created in those different parts of the drawing. All right, so keep going. I don't want you to stop yet. Keep going. I just want to talk to you a little bit as you're drawing. So if your rubber bands are too tight, loosen them up. Please, nobody. Yeah, don't put on a tourniquet. Yeah, you don't have to put them on that tightly. But as you're drawing again, think about the movement of your whole body. So you're drawing, you're thinking about now you're having to manage both hands. You're having to manage through your center, through your shoulders. You're having to mention all of that. Okay, let's go back to the drawing so they can see it. Okay, there we go. All right, keep going. Keep developing. Let's give it another 30 seconds to finish these drawings. I'm going just with my non-dominant hand now. Here with my, thank you, my left hand. I'm bringing my right hand. Get that beautiful profile. Nice. And the hair in the back. There we go. All right, y'all. Okay. And let's stop there. All right, how did it go? All right, now take this moment to relieve your fingers. All right, so you pop that, pop that, pop that, get all those rubber bands back off. If it's more comfortable for you to wrap with tape or string or something like that, feel free to do that too. In fact, that's what we're gonna do for the next one. Okay, whew, get that circulation going in your fingers again. All right, now, hopefully what you got there was not a very clearly organized picture, right? Hopefully what you got there was a record of your experience and your movement of the body. And that would be really, then you did a good thing. Because our point, again, is not a point about copying. It's not about taking one picture and comparing another picture to it. It's about responding. And there's a reason why so many artists through the 20th and 21st century have come up with these different methods, you know, oftentimes referred to as de-skilling methods, of using like long sticks, you know, with brushes attached to the end of them, or even shorter sticks with charcoal and things on them, so that artists can get back and work and think more about the sort of performance and movement of their body rather than the manual control and the copying of those images. All right, now before we get into our next drawing, let's check back in with our avocado ink, because for the next drawing, for those of you who've made avocado ink, you're going to actually use it for the next one. All right, I'm just gonna dump my excess water here off. All right, and what I'm going to do next is I'm gonna strain my avocado ink into this. All right, so I've got my little strainer here, my kitchen strainer, which I can just hold on top as best as I can with one hand so y'all can see this. There we go. I'm just gonna put it on like that. There we go. So I'm gonna hold that strainer there. Now I've got my ink, which I could have cooked down again even a little bit further, but you'll see I'm just gonna go ahead and pour that ink in there. Nice. And capture all those pieces of now that avocado, which now should just look absolutely blood red for you. All right, so I've strained that. That will also strain out any of the skins. And now I've got a beautiful little concentrate of that avocado ink that's left behind, which I can now pour into another container. Don't have to keep it in this Pyrex. I can pour it into another container, and then I can use that with a brush, or I can use that with a dip pen, like we did last week, like the reed pens. So for those of you who were around last week who might have made your own bamboo pen to draw with, if you have that now, you can also pull out one of those bamboo pens you made last week. You'll see me, I'm going to use a pen, but I'm also going to use some small cheap brushes. These are, you know, you get 5 of these for $2 down at the Chinatown markets. So I'm going to use some of these cheap brushes as well. So I've got my avocado ink, and we're going to go into the next drawing. Now, one of the things which I mentioned to get ready for the drawing today is working from a photograph versus working from life or working from a drawing. There are a lot of people who think it's very different when you draw from a photograph instead of drawing from life. And so you even get like the big portrait prizes, like the Archibald Prize, even require that people state that they were working from life at some point in the making of a portrait. There's a value, a hierarchy associated with it. But usually what makes the difference between somebody working from a photograph and somebody working from life, it's not something, you know, inherent to the quality of the photograph or in quality of the life studio. It's the way people draw. When they draw from photographs, they have a tendency to work smaller. They have a tendency to work much more slowly. When you're working from life, you tend to work more quickly because there's a time component to the time that you have with the model or the sitter there. There are certainly plenty of artists who make drawings that carry the tendencies of working from life, even though they're all made from photographs. And there are people who work from photographs, who work from life, who make drawings that carry the tendency of working from photographs. And oftentimes that just boils down to the graphic tendencies of drawing, not to anything more than that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of wrist drawing. All right. So we're going to further activate ourselves by getting out of our hands altogether. And we're actually going to be attaching these to our wrists. Now, I'm also going to open this up because you are at home and you have room to move. I have had students before that have done amazing drawings with their brushes attached to their spectacles. I've had people who do amazing drawings with these attached to their elbows and their knees, and they're drawing with their legs and holding the brushes with their feet and drawing that way. I want you now to just extend your body and think about your body and engaging it in a different way. I'm going to do a basic wrist drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach that brush to my wrist, and I'm going to do that on both hands again, dominant and non-dominant, so that as I'm drawing, I'm having to think about moving through my arms. The other thing that will do is it'll make me much less sensitive to pressure. So using a tool that will make a mark really easily without much pressure is a good idea. So if you have a marker, a texter that you can use for this, that would be really good. If you want to go with 2 different colors, one on each wrist, that's beautiful to combine those things together. If you have a brush and your avocado ink, or a dip pen and your avocado ink, you could use that just as easily too. I'm going to go with a brush on one hand, and I'm going to go with a dip pen on the other. You can use, if you don't have the avocado ink and you want to work in liquid, any sort of liquid ink will work for this. But again, if you don't have any ink or any brushes or any dip pens, use a marker. You know, just use a basic texter. That'll work really beautifully too. All right. So now, if you don't have any of those, go back to your pencils. You know, use your pencils, use your pens, use a biro pen, use whatever you've got. All right. So we're going to dive right back into this again. I've got my avocado ink. I'm going to get a fresh sheet of paper set up. And then for this next drawing, I'm going to use the Rebecca Horn photograph as my basis. You're welcome to use that too. I'll put it on screen so you can see it. But if you would like to use another photograph, if you have a portrait or a photograph at home that you'd like to use for this next drawing, use that too. But we're going to translate. We're going to, with our bodies, re-embody, you know, we're going to put that corporeality back into the photograph by working with your bodies. All right. So if you have, oh, look, you know, I just see the QAGOMA team. If you have a portrait to work from, but if you have somebody sitting there in front of you, just draw them, okay? So let's get ourselves set up for this now. And what I'm gonna use is a little bit of string. I'm gonna use a little bit of yarn, and I'm gonna have my producer again help me out with this. And we're actually going to tie on a brush to one of my wrists, and we're gonna tie on a dip pen to the other one of my wrists. So get yourself set up, and then we'll go into the final drawing. All right, I'm actually going to capture this with the big rubber band just first to hold it in place. There we go. Okay, let's take a piece of this string now and let's wrap it up. Okay, get yourselves organized, y'all, and get yourselves set up and attached. There we go. Can you just wrap that all around? Yeah, wrap it, wrap it, wrap it. Yeah, and then crisscross it and wrap it again. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Thank you. Here, I'll hold that end. Okay, so wrap yourself up so that's just, it doesn't, again, have to be too tight. Please don't cut off your circulation. Just make sure that you've got it on there so it won't fall off while you're drawing. There we go. Excellent. Keep wrapping that. It's okay. You just wrap it around. Just wrap it around. There we go. All right. And I'm going to get my other wrist set up too. Okay. So let me grab a pen. Okay. I've got one of my dip pens, one of my reed pens we made last week. Put that on too. Okay. Again, if you have somebody who's there with you who can assist you this morning, that would be great. If you don't, use your teeth. Do your best. All right, there we go. Thanks, that's great. Tie it up there nice and tight. All right, excellent. Okay, so now I am well connected there to my brush that I can draw with one wrist. And now I'm getting help with my pen. I can draw with my other wrist. And again, if anybody wants to at home, please document what you're doing. If anybody's drawing with your knees, with your feet, with your elbows, with it tied onto your head, we want to see it. And we want you to share those things with us. This is good body extension drawing. All right, good. And then let's just tie it across the top. That's plenty. Let's just tie it there now. Thank you. All right, and again, you should now have some strange extensions to your body that are working. I've even had people before who do this by dangling, you know, by holding a string with something at the end. It works really well for that too. So all of those different methods, just get that on there. Let's actually twist that big rubber band one more time. Put that around again. There we go. Perfect. All right, I'm on. Okay, now let's switch over to the other camera. And let's go to this Rebecca Horn, this beautiful Rebecca Horn pencil mask here from 1972. Let's switch cameras there. Okay. All right, and I'm going to switch my sheet of paper out, and we're going to take about 5 minutes on this drawing. Again, we're not going to overwork it or overdo it. We want to keep it really, really quick, really, really loose. Set my paper underneath here. Keep poking it with my wrist. There we go. All right, and let me know in the chat if you are able to type. Is everybody set? Is everybody attached? They have their body extensions ready to go? All right, using elbows, good, elbows. Don't poke yourself in the face. Don't forget that you have that attached. Everybody is attached, really, really good. Oh, we got some feet, good, wrists, excellent. All right, now I've got my ink right here, ready to go, right here at the bottom of my board. And now I'm gonna dip my brush. And again, the thing here, as you can see, that's just coming off my wrist there. I'm not even gonna hold it. I'm just gonna make fist, and I've got my other pen there. So now I'm just gonna start to think about drawing there with my wrist, keeping it really, really quick and loose. In fact, I've gotta move a little bit closer to my board and get up over it. Looking at this beautiful Rebecca Horn work, and now just doing a response to it. And again, I'm not gonna think too much. I'm not gonna be too concerned about the pictorial qualities of it and trying to reproduce the picture. Instead, what I'm just thinking about is the response. What are the movements, and what is the movement of my body that I can add into that work? All right, let's go about 5 minutes, y'all. Keep it quick, keep it loose. Keep recharging with your ink if you're using texters. Go try to, again, work both hands. Whoa, I almost killed my webcam. Try working both hands at the same time. I'm going to try to work so I don't cover up the photograph for y'all there too. All right, there we go. That's it. And again, don't think too much about or be too critical of yourselves if you're not matching the photograph or the person that's in front of you or the portrait that you're using. Think about your body. Think about the movement of your body and how you're going about that process. All right, let's switch it back and let's go. Let's go for about 3 more minutes, y'all. Keep it quick, keep it loose. Try to use your whole sheet of paper wherever you are, wherever you're working. Try not to think too much about or be too judgmental about it. Just feel it. Feel the physicality of it. All right. And let me get some more. Oh, and by the way, this is my avocado ink, which came out just beautifully. Holy cow. I'm really happy with it. There we go. That's it. All right, how's everybody doing out there? I hope we see some amazing photographs, not only of your drawings, but your process. Let's get some good documentation of you with your different prosthetics attached to your body. All right, I am very, very happy with mine so far. Nice. All right. Wrists, I'm getting thumbs up on people using their wrists. Nice. All right, my wrist is coming a little bit loose. I'm gonna have to switch it over to the bottom. That's it. Now, this also enables you to work at scale. So you could go much, much larger with your drawings here too and get some really big, beautiful things. You know, there are a lot of artists. Matisse famously, when he was bedridden, would just use a massive long bamboo stick, a 3-meter long bamboo stick, and do drawings all over the walls with that huge extension. There we go, as he was convalescing. That's it. All right. Okay, beautiful. Let's take another minute on this drawing, y'all. It's coming along well. Nice. What the? Okay. Uh-oh, I'm getting a time warning. How can we be running out of time? We just got started, y'all. Okay. All right, there's my response to Rebecca Horn. How is your response coming there? Knees for the win. I love it. I'm getting all tangled up there again. I'm going to leave that Rebecca Horn up for a minute. I'm going to leave that up for a minute so you can keep working. Yeah, tied a pen. Nice. Yep. So good. Oh yeah. Good. Don't cut off the circulation to your arms or anything like that. You feel like Wolverine. Nice. Hair. Somebody just said they have avocado ink in their hair. Look, your hair is a great tool to use for this too. There have been some very famous examples of artwork that was going on while people were dipping their own hair into puddles of ink. Nice. Now, again, as I said to you last week, it's really interesting that you know, when I do that bad drawing workshop, I oftentimes will have students who will come back after an entire semester and say to me, look, my favorite drawing I did for this entire term, this entire class, was that bad drawing I did in week 1. I always do this body extension very early in the process too. And I had the same experience with students that they'll come back months later and they'll say, one of the favorite drawings I ever did was that one where I just had a big stick tied to my knee. All right, excellent. Oh, highlighters between your toes. I want to see that drawing. All right, so you're gonna have to share that one. All right, now I know that nice. These comments are fantastic, y'all. Okay, I know we got to kick back out of this because I have run out of time. So let's switch it back. Listen, I know I'm out of time for this morning, but this is only the beginning, the tip of the iceberg, all right? This is a method of drawing which you can continue to explore, making your own tools, making your own inks, thinking beyond those set parameters, those set formats of drawing pads or sheets of paper that they sell at the art supply store, thinking around the set parameters of, you know, pencils and crayons and things like that, and instead thinking about the way that you can begin to engage your entire self in the process of drawing. Thank you very much for joining me, y'all. I cannot wait to engage with y'all on social media and see what everybody's been doing. This has been a lot of fun. Please continue to join me for Draw Along. Next week, we're going on to one of the strangest and most fascinating tools used by artists in the history of art. It is one of the most mysterious and most misunderstood tools in art. It is the mirror. And so next week we are going to do mirror drawing. So I'm going to throw it back to Michaela and the team at Queensland Art Gallery now. Thank you very much, y'all. Have a beautiful Saturday, and I'll see you soon.